And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Armageddon from the ground up. This is after Armageddon has come, and there are marauders because in every Armageddon, post-Armageddon situation, there are marauders. And you are going to be fighting these marauders off and preparing, but this is not a combat game. This is a semi-worker placement auction style game. What does all that mean? Let's take a look. In this futuristic game, players are trying to get points, and they're going to start with some points over the course of the game, and they're going to get points by various things. Marauders are going to be constantly attacking each of the players. Players have these little symbols. I'm still not sure what these are. Helmets? Squid? Anyway, and so marauders will be attacking you, and every time you fight them off, you're going to be getting points. Players are also going to get points sometimes from other things that just give you points. Players will have buildings that give them points. And over the course of the game, there will be different scorings. It just gives you 4 points for every building. Finally, one way to get points is there's many different equipment cards, and you simply get groups of these equipment cards. So if you get this Coca-Cola here, or beer, or root beer, or whatever it is, if you have one, it's worth 1, 2, or 2, 3, or 4. And if you have all, up to 6 of them, you get 15 points, and this shows how many are in the game. So what players are going to do each round of the game is the first part of a round, the marauders are going to be attacking based on which round it is. So you're going to keep track of each turn. There's 6 turns over the course of the game. After 3 turns, there's a mid-scoring. And each turn, the marauders are going to come hit you. Players are going to also look at their board. And on their board, there's a damage token to show how damaged your base is. And the farther over it is, the possibility more marauders are going to come, or that you'll even lose points. So you have to be careful with that. Once players determine that, there's some cards going to be put out. There's equipment cards and building cards, and the building cards are going to get better as the game goes by. And then players are in turn order from the highest victory point to the lowest, are going to be bidding in these areas here. Now when you bid, you're going to place one of your markers in one of the spots, and then you can use some of your workers. Each player is going to start with some generic green workers and their leader. So I could bid with just this, or I could throw in a couple workers after it. And then maybe the black player will go down here and he'll bid just 1. The brown player would go underneath him and bid 2. And then the white player would go here. But you can bid on any one of these 3 sections. Now bidding on these 3 sections, one person's going to win, whoever has the most. And if there's a tie, whoever's higher up will win the tie. And one person is going to lose. The winner is going to get the reward that's listed here. So for example, here you will get a random equipment card. And then the loser here will take a damage, whoever is the lowest. Here the winner will get 2 victory points, and the loser gets another damage. Here the winner can heal a damage, and the loser loses an equipment card. But not only that, each of these 3 sections is going to, in turn order from the highest bid to the lowest bid, get to do something. So in the first section, you are going to get equipment cards. So the equipment cards are at the top here. You can pick which equipment card you want, but at the beginning of each round, a bunch more workers are going to be thrown on them. So here I get 2 greens and 2 blues. Here a yellow, a green, and a red. This isn't a worker. It actually goes back in the bag of workers, but it makes my marauders go up by 1. So as time goes by, you're going to see more and more marauders on those. After that, the building auction, whoever goes first here is going to pick which building that they're going to add to the area in front of them. And they're also going to get a token here. Like here you kill a marauder. Here you get 2 extra housing points. Here you lose equipment. Here you get an extra marauder. But you then have a building that you can put in front of you. Each player is going to start with a board in front of them. This board has a few buildings placed on it. And as they get new buildings, they can place those buildings on empty spots and eventually cover up other buildings if they so desire. Some buildings are even an upgrade. Like this one here is an upgrade to your headquarters. So you'd place it here to make your headquarters better. The third spot on the board is not necessarily an auction. Instead, all the workers that you place there, you're going to bring down to your board and use them to do different things on the board. Like for example, here I could put let's focus up on this building here. So you can see this watchtower. It says I can use a green worker 2 times, and for each green worker I put there, I will fight off 1 marauder. I can also put a blue worker there 1 time to fight off 2 marauders. Now everyone starts with a leader. That leader is a wild, so I could put that leader here to lose 2 marauders. Or I might put the leader here, which will give me 2 victory points for each of the red buildings that I have. Over here, I can I can draw 3 equipment cards and keep 1, or just draw an equipment card. Mobile homes doesn't do anything, and each building you get will do something. You could also spend 2 workers over here, any 2 workers, to open this up, which gives you an extension, which is another building you can build. And you can also always spend 2 green workers or 1 yellow to move your damage back. So players are going to have to decide which workers they're going to use in this section. And like I said, as the game goes by, the buildings get better and better. There's even some buildings like here, the church. Every time you kill Marauder, you get 2 victory points for having the church vengeful. And some of the buildings at the bottom of them are going to give you a certain amount of points every round. So they're also handy in that regard. At the end of a turn, players are going to look at the housing numbers on all their buildings and add them together, and that's the maximum amount of people that you keep. Everyone that you bid with over the course of a round, you're going to keep for the next round, but if you have too many, more than that number added together, then you have to throw them back in the bag and you lose 2 points for each one. And that's pretty much it. Players are just going to keep going and going. Oh, and every turn the Marauders are going to get through and do damage to your base. You take too much damage, like I said, you'll lose points. You also can lose the use of your leader for that round. So you're going to have to do what you can to get that back up. After 6 rounds, players will reveal their own secret scoring objective. They'll have 2 and they'll pick one. So this gives me a point for every green worker I have. Or this one here gives me a point for 4 points for every red building. Add those to the points that they've scored over the course of the game, and whoever has the most points is the winner. Now the components for this game are quite nice. The whole thing has a nice post-apocalyptic thing, but it really does look good. The pieces are easy to tell apart. You have the different workers you're pulling from the bag. And I know that the yellows are soldiers and blues are engineers or something like that. I can't remember which. It doesn't matter in the long run. But there's a lot going on in this game, and the auctions are kind of a fascinating thing. Now, I'm always a little iffy when it comes to auctions. Like, what mistakes do you make on them? And it's really interesting because each auction matters. In one auction, in all 3 auctions, there's that good and bad thing that happens. And they're going to be different per game. In fact, they change halfway through the game. But like if the winner gets 2 victory points and the loser gets a Marauder, or the winner loses a Marauder and the loser loses 2 victory points, that's really intriguing on how that works because you want to win that. You can't keep losing those. You'll lose the game that way. You get too many Marauders, and pretty soon every Marauder you get is a victory point that you lose. So that's interesting, but then it's also whoever is the best there gets their first pick up there. Sometimes you want a pile of workers. Hey, more workers, the more you can do, but you don't want too many workers. So because then you have to send some back and you lose victory points for them. And also some of them have piles of Marauders up there and you don't want them, but you're also looking for specific pieces of equipment because you get those equipment, you get sets, and you can win or lose the game based on sets of equipment. But at the same time, it's really important you get the buildings. You want good buildings. You want types of buildings that will help you score victory points. Or you want buildings that will let you do really cool things. I need to fight off the Marauders. I need buildings to do that. Or buildings that give you housing points. You can keep more people. And then that third one, that auction, there's no really an auction there, but you can send all your people there. I've sent like everybody to work sometime and lose the other 2 auctions. And it's like, yeah, I have all these workers, but I lost so many points and didn't get anything good, because my auction wasn't very good of it. So I really liked it. There's only 3 auctions to participate in, but how you bid on them is pretty critical. And you sit there and go, every worker I send to bid on the first 2 auctions is someone who's not going to come work in my town. And then you get to build up your town a little bit, and that's kind of fun to see the different buildings, and you might go for victory points. You're just trying to constantly reduce damage. And each round, the Marauders get stronger and stronger, and these waves get bigger and bigger, but you can also fight them off. Now, if I have some qualms about the game, there are some buildings that are in the second stack of buildings which are just amazing buildings. Now that's fine. It makes that second auction for those buildings pretty exciting and interesting. But you could, if you get shafted and not get one of those buildings, there's 2 churches, for example, a Church of Peace, which you no longer get a point every time you kill a Marauder, but you do get 10 points every turn. Pretty good. And then the one I showed you, where every time you kill a Marauder, you get 2 victory points. For the first 5 Marauders, you did 2. But those are both really powerful buildings, and if you don't get one of those, you could really be behind everyone else. And in fact, if on turn 4 or 5 you fall pretty far behind, it's very difficult to catch back up. That's not a huge problem with the game because that's the way a lot of these games are. And there's definitely strategy in this game. There's not a lot of luck other than the buildings or cards and tiles that come up. It's just that you look at them, how they come up, and you say, okay, how am I going to deal with them this turn? I like that the workers that you spend on auctions and the workers that you send out, you don't lose them. Well, that's cool. You get them back each turn. So you feel like you're growing and you feel like you're progressing. And the game is, I think, just about the perfect amount of length. This is not a blow them up, Mad Max style game. That's kind of like in the background. Instead, you're just trying to concentrate on keeping your colony surviving and keeping these marauders out of it and doing well with it. It's nice. It has a lot of replayability. I think it scales well. Certainly one I recommend. That's Armageddon. Dice Tower Judgment, approved.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!